Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Helen. Thank you. Over to you.
Hiya, it's a question for Clark, actually. So you analysed the student writing. I'm wondering if you had seen any influence of AI or ChatGPT or anything like that that you had identified that maybe the subject lecturer hadn't. I'm kind of asking a bit selfishly because I'm thinking about doing some analysis myself of student text, but I'm a bit concerned that I'm going to find that and I don't want to. So did you, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, good question. I suppose at the time, I mean, I know it's always been on the radar. Maybe at that time it wasn't as much on the radar, but because of the way it was set up, the first personal statement that they had to write, my own kind of impression of that would be that, and from viewing those, it was a real mixed bag, you know, and students may have just submitted something that they already had from a job application or similar, and some very much did follow the instructions, and it was a very personal piece of writing, and in turn that usually meant that they came out a little bit higher on the grading. For the exam, that was an open online exam, 48 hours, went through Turnitin and so on. Personally, I could see the students in that, and what I did, remember, I sort of identified that the majority of, nearly 100% of the assessments that they do were through a written task, but their opportunity to submit work for feedback and so on was non-existent, really. So I actually implemented a short writing activity in one of the classes and got them to submit that through Turnitin. So that was in semester one. So they did a piece of work with me that was not going to be kind of linked to any kind of grade from their side of things, but did mean that I got another snapshot of the work that they were producing kind of midway through semester one. Mm-hmm. So from that kind of assessment for learning perspective, it kind of gave me again a little insight just to see where people were at and what they were doing or not doing, or what we could work on further. And then the research proposal, with it being so closely linked and tied to the dissertation, it has, you know, a literature review. We had to explain their methodology. So that I'm not going to sort of go, I don't think it was there, but it wasn't something that was really coming through to me, and you know, it was seen by various colleagues at various points because of the way it was set up, and it didn't come through. But interestingly, since then, since that year, there has been an increase in the amount of handwritten exams that they do in the business school. So that activity that I do in semester one has become a handwritten activity that students really want to do, because they've even not done handwritten writing tasks for a very long time, or just want a chance to do it and get some feedback on it. So does that answer that question? I don't know if
yeah, it does. It'd be interesting to see if you did the study again, whether things would change with the changes in the assessments as well. Thank you.
I think we do have a question from the chat from Peter and echoed by Agata regarding the language clinics. Interested in the workshops and the language clinics. What do these involve? Were they like drop-ins or more structured on campus online? And then perhaps after that question, if people are still here, we might go to the breakout activity, I'm thinking. Is that sounding okay, presenters? Yeah. Okay, so the question from Peter and Agata first, perhaps, if that's all right.
Okay. So the workshops were MSc specific because they were separated by MSc program, and they were the ones that focused quite a lot on the assessment literacy and what they need to do for their assessments. And that was the ones that were developed with the DSE and the MSc program leads and the students coming and saying, I need to write a blog and I don't know how. The language clinics were really language focused. So it was things that the MSc program leads had mentioned that they thought students were finding difficult, or students would come and say, I know that we're meant to write, for methodology, we need to use a lot of passive and I don't really understand what I'm doing. So I would they could fill out a form if they had requests for language points that they wanted to focus on, or it was things that had come out in the previous year's writing that the MSc program leads asked me to focus on. They were all sign up, they were all on campus. My preference really, because I really dislike teaching online. But yeah, they were all on campus and in person. And the language clinics were every week. I also did, for one of the language clinics with the lab technician, we did a session on language of labs, looking at the names of the equipment so that when they went into the labs, they had the equipment that they needed. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much. We've got a good number of participants still, and it is our practice on in the In-Sessional SIG to use breakout rooms. I've seen a question from Steve just come up, but do we want to head to that now, presenters? Is that your preference? Alternatively, can stay here perhaps and allow questions to come up to yourselves, of course.
Do we do one more question, Clark? Do you want to answer Steve's question and then we could do breakout rooms?
Great.
Yeah, I just saw that. I'm just starting to type, but I'll answer it. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Steve. So yeah, that was brokered in collaboration in a very, very short period of time between the summer teaching period and the new academic year, in a couple of meetings between myself, at that time the In-Sessional lead, B. Bond, the DSE and DDSE. And I think actually the question they asked, how will we know this has impact, probably then was responded to by us with, well, it will need to have quite a lot of sessions, and they need to be regular, and they need to probably go into both semesters and ideally be attached to particular modules so that there's some specific target for us to be working towards to give it relevance for the students. So yeah, there was the agreement would be obviously that the sessions would be optional, which gave students some flexibility. So, as Jenna said about, the timings of classes and so on, I did have people who were meant to be in the, Wednesday 9 a.m. class turning up to the Thursday 2 p.m. class. And I was okay with that. And, everyone involved was okay with that. I was happy that they were coming rather than not. And yeah, it sort of fit. Working with the timetabling team within LUBS meant that, it was negotiated, and, I think a couple of proposals were put to me, and they tend to be each summer, in readiness for the next academic year. And I just try and push back if I feel like they are not ideal. And I know that's sometimes we end up having to meet in the middle, but we always seem to be able to find a way to create a time and a place that suits the majority. Yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you.